I got you both in here.
We got,
Yeah, Rolando, it looks like he's coming on right now. There he is.
oh, okay.
Hey,
Okay,
Rolando, how's it going?
Doing all right.
Good, good.
good.
So, actually, let me just pause the recording for a second. Recording again, so you guys are recording, and I'll just introduce you for uh, for whoever ends up watching this. Is we have first of all, our interviewer is Donald Cole, who's professor emeritus at the University of Mississippi and a longtime champion of all kinds of things and the national treasure of my my book. An amazing story. We should do a video on him alone. But and also we have Rolando deSantiago, who has received his PhD from University of Iowa after an undergraduate and master's degree at Cal Poly Pomona, I believe. Has been at UCLA as a postdoc and will be an assistant professor at Purdue starting in the fall of 2020. And I'll turn it over to Donald, and I'm actually going to just leave and let you guys have your conversation. Oh, I'm going to make Donald the host. That's the other thing I need to do.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So we'll edit
Thank you
this.
so much,
Uh,
Dave, and just kind of give me the thumbs up when the recording starts so I can
oh,
go
we're
ahead.
recording already, brother.
We are recording. Okay, okay,
Mhm.
very good. All right.
Okay. Well, you're
And
the host now, so when the meeting ends, John, you can just hit quit, and it will should download to my computer, and that would be it.
okay, thank you so much, David. You've done your part and done it well. We
I'll
will
just mute,
we
and
will
I'll mute
dismiss you.
myself.
Rolando, how you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right. I
Good. You're coming through loud and clear, and I hope I am too. And it's a pleasure to be able to kind of to interview you. Want to just ask a few questions and a few open-ended questions, and it should take a little less than an hour or so, and just kind of get your perspective on a few things. So, is that okay?
sounds good.
Okay.
I should let you know I live off sort of a major intersection, so occasionally you may hear a lot of cars, sirens, helicopters. This is just like
Well,
the natural wildlife in my
I
area.
got you. Okay.
And
Okay. Very good.
one more thing, the last time I
Mhm.
saw you, I was sitting on a panel, and you made the effort to make sure that I clarified statements whenever I got way too technical, and I hope you can help me out with that too.
Oh, okay. By, by all means, we're in this thing together. I'm no expert on this, but we'll try to get so that anyone who hears or sees it can clearly understand it and the message that we are trying to get be brought forth. So let me maybe let you start by asking you to give me a little mathematical chronological timeline that somehow brought you to where you are now. So tell me, give me your full name. Tell me where you were brought up, and all the way a little bit until your undergraduate degree, where it's from, etc. Tell me a little bit about you mathematically.
All right, so I guess we could start from the beginning. My name is Rolando deSantiago. I grew up in Los Angeles, lived in this city for almost my entire life. Module 4 years where I was doing my PhD at the University of Iowa. So your question was, what sort of got me from, through my PhD into where I am now. So I guess the best thing to do is just sort of give you chronological information here, right? Just like you asked. Um, I started off at community college, specifically Pasadena City College. Was there for 2 years. I was a math major. I think an important part of my development there was that I was getting a lot of C's in all of my math classes, and people were surprised that I was still considering that I was a math major. To me, that just seemed normal. Like, I'm passing my classes. Why wouldn't I be a major? um, After that, I transferred over to Cal Poly Pomona, where I was there for almost 6 years. And that time is very confusing. It's so hard to like break down. I think officially I ended up earning my master's in mathematics there before I earned my bachelor's due to some weird technical issues with the registrars. So,
Interesting.
that's just how complicated that experience might have been for me. Um, I was there thinking that I'm going to be a math major. I'm going to go back and I'm going to teach high school. But I had a lot of professors and mentors there who were like, you know what, why don't you consider going to get a PhD? I repeatedly told them no, and they just kept telling me to consider it, to actually give it some real thought. It was there that Robin Wilson, who was my mentor at the time, he told me that I should just go to the Field of Dreams conference, get some perspective, because right now I probably don't have enough information to make an informed decision. And he was right. You know, that's where I learned that getting a PhD is something that was actually attainable. I was spending a lot of time struggling through undergrad, and I thought that a PhD program would be that times 11. But, you know, realizing that, you know, if I get accepted into a PhD program, that might remove some of my financial barriers. I mean, that made all the difference for me.
Okay.
My job is to be a student, right? Before that, my job was to be plenty of other things. So that sort of narrow focus made a huge difference. And I've been thinking about, you know, how I got to choose Iowa of all places, right? You go from Los Angeles where it's sunny and 70.
Yes.
It is right now. Iowa's a hard sell. But it was the right decision for me. And I can look back on that experience and say, yeah, that was where I needed to be at that point in my life.
Yes, yes.
That's where I met my advisor, who connected me to his advisor. I'm currently a postdoctoral scholar under my advisor's guidance. Has been pretty good for me. Right now, I'm like in this transition period where I am about to end one position and I'm about to start the next one. And in the fall, I'll be starting off as a tenure track professor at tenure track assistant professor. I think these titles are reported at Purdue University. Yeah, if I say professor, people are gonna like shout at me, so I think I should correct that.
Well, let me congratulate you for, oh boy, for such a great career that you've had at such a young age. Talk a little about the Alliance and how you became involved, and tell me a little bit about a few major players there. And when you think about the Alliance, you know, what comes up? What do you remember?
All right, I guess I've been there at so many stages, so I think I kind of have to break it down, right? Like before I started school, the Alliance meant something to me. Now that I'm at this point in my career, it's changing into something else, and I'm still sort of trying to find what that is, where my place within the Alliance is. That's where I got a lot of my information about graduate school. This is not a career path that I had envisioned for myself growing up, right? I just never really thought that this was a career path. I don't know why, but it was not on my list of like potential future jobs. Robin Wilson from Cal Poly Pomona, he was one of the people who really just never gave up on me. And he was the one who connected me with Phil Kutzko. So I guess if I want to think about like what the Alliance was to me at the time, it was really just these two people for the most part. They seemed to be so influential at that point, right? Phil with all his energy, trying to change the landscape of mathematics, and Robin, who's there just like pushing me to become a part of this.
Okay.
It was, I mean, it was definitely a lot to take in. It took maybe two more years after that before I really was on board with getting a PhD. But
any memories of the Field of Dream conference?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the first time I remember getting on a plane in my adult life was when I went to go from LAX to the far off Phoenix area to one of the last conferences that I had at ASU. And I think the first time I was there, I definitely felt like I was alone, but like the real issue that I had like the first time around was that I didn't even know what kind of questions to ask, right? We were at there were a ton of panels, people asking great questions, and I just had no idea what I was doing. And in there, I just kind of sat, I listened, I saw the kinds of questions that people were asking. And I was just wondering, like, why haven't I been asking these kinds of questions?
Oh.
And then the second year when I went back, it was a completely different experience. I think I went with more friends from Cal Poly Pomona. We had more of a plan of, you know, I think we understood how to read the agenda this time, and had more questions, like, you know, thought about how to be more actively involved and try to extract as much information as possible.
Yeah. Okay, those are some real interesting thoughts, and I can tell as you reflect that you're doing an honest assessment, you know, there, and as I look at where you are now, and I know as a lot of other people they'll look at you and they'll say, "Wow, here's someone that has a PhD in mathematics. Here's someone who's getting ready to start their professional career as an assistant professor at a major U.S. institution. You must be a real genius." Somebody's going to probably say that and think that in their mind, and that is something that's beyond me. I am not a genius, but here's one that I'm looking at right now. What do you say to that person?
Well, I can tell them that, you know, my mom just thinks I'm a teacher. So one of the people who know me best definitely don't feel that way. I mean, I definitely struggled in my undergraduate education. I was not getting the highest grades in all my classes, but I definitely was doing well in some of them, especially when I got to upper division math. I mean, I could still look at my transcripts, I could find those D's, but now that I look back on those moments, it was like, there were times where I was working 3 jobs. It's not that I didn't have the mental ability to tackle mathematics. I just didn't have like the time and the energy to put into studying. Put in like the actual work that goes into understanding the material.
Yes.
So that's part of it. And then, you know, I think now that I'm in now that I've finished graduate school, I realized that, you know, I probably could have gone into graduate school knowing a little bit less and it would have hurt, but I would have been fine in some ways. Everybody comes in with a different level of experience. And the idea is that over time, these things sort of average out. You know, those differences become smaller and smaller. Everybody starts to grow together. I do also remember the fact that, you know, while a lot of, like say the content from undergraduate analysis sort of came easily to me, kind of because it had to based on my circumstances, there were other classes that, you know, I didn't fully understand for several years. You know, some of my first year courses in like topology or abstract algebra, I think it took me a couple years to finally understand the course content, and it's something that I'm still revisiting. Right, those books that I bought and the articles, the notes that I had from that time are things that I'm still revisiting, trying to see how they blend and connect to the things that I'm thinking about. And for a lot of people, yeah, this is basic stuff. If you were to ask somebody who's been researching for a long time. But to me, it's still like, yeah, you got to revisit the basics. You're going to have to keep going back, right? It's just like with any sport, you always got to practice those fundamentals. So,
Great example. Yeah, great example. Great example. And the good thing about it is that, you know, once you have it, it's almost as if you had it forever. But you do have to pursue it with passion. Rolando, I'd like to ask you a couple of personal questions, and if you don't feel that you should answer, then that's okay as well. And if you do feel like you can answer, then please do. But just to show you your human side, tell me of an instance in which along your mathematical career for which you almost felt devastated and about at the quitting point. And then I want you to compensate for that by telling me one of your very proud moments in mathematics as well. So in terms of those extremes, just share something personal with us.
okay. Let me think about that for a moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just something that low time in mathematics where you were almost devastated and about to give up, and then a very proud moment that you have where you've
So
demonstrated some type of achievement.
yeah.
Please go ahead.
One sort of aspect that I've always sort of hidden about myself was the fact that when I had transferred over to Cal Poly Pomona, that was the point where I almost dropped out of school. Part of it was just because I didn't know what I was doing. There were all these holds, and suddenly those holds like really felt like something I would not be able to overcome. You know, some things that seemed like really simple now in hindsight, but like at that time, it just felt like too much. So there were certain quarters where I just didn't go to school because I didn't have those holds cleared. But I was telling my family that I was still going to school.
Mm-hmm.
I would leave my house, I'd go nowhere, and I'd come home several hours later.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, early on, I really felt like this is not where, it's not something I can do here. I can't finish my degree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were other moments where I was trying to finish my degree, and some other administrative issue would come up where the registrar said I didn't have enough units, and so I couldn't graduate, or I had or they miscounted something, and then I'd have to file some kind of petition, and it would be this endless cycle of going to the registrars, then the math department's chair's office, and we just bouncing back and forth. I mean, those were some like really, really hard times. It's just like trying to get out of my undergraduate program.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even when I was working on my master's, there was a point where I got like a D in a class that I thought I was good in, and I'm pretty sure that the D came out of a place of kindness from my professor at the time. They knew what I was going through. They knew that I was trying to juggle 3 different jobs just so I could pay to have the privilege to be in their class. They respected that, but at the same time, they can't offer course credit for the work that I'm not doing within their class, right? So they wanted to make sure that it didn't hurt in the way more than it should.
Mm-hmm.
It took a while to come back from that. I'm happy to say that since it took me so long, I was able to meet more people. My thesis advisor for my master's program, John Rock, I would not have met him if it didn't take me, you know, almost as much time as it takes people to earn 2 degrees to earn 1.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, it's these weird blessings that show up. You got to like extract them, but they're sort of there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really just want to emphasize that, like, my experience wasn't easy. Sometimes I think I really did give up. You know, people ask how you keep going, and the answer is, I don't know, because I didn't. I had to find the time to rebuild myself and then get back into it. And then you also said, you know, on the flip side, what are some of my prouder moments in this?
Yes.
And, I mean, I think I can go down the list. There was the time where I got personally invited by the the graduate chair at Indiana University, Professor Judge. He personally invited me to come out to visit their university. That was crazy. It was one of those things where you're like, yeah, it turns out networking does work. I just happened to sit next to this guy at some dinner at a conference. We started talking. He's like, we need to get you out here. That was cool. I guess I'm also really proud of the fact that, you know, when I got this position at UCLA, that it came so early in my academic career. You know, it takes 5-6 years to get a PhD. And I mean, I came out of it in 4.
Yes.
But that's, I mean, I'm not trying to do a speed run. So I'm trying to do a career. So those are definitely some of those. Very clearly for myself.
Oh.
And now, are we good?
Yeah. I wanted to just say thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Your career in the eyes of many has been phenomenal, but we know that it's no smooth road to success. And but you just said it's going to definitely help someone. It's probably why we are doing some of these interviews. As you reflect back on your mathematical career, what would be some of the things that you would do differently if you could start all over again?
Well, what would I do differently?
Mm-hmm. Or you could tell me what some of the things that you would do exactly the same.
I guess I think I wish I would have believed in my abilities a little bit more. When somebody tells you that they think that you are good at something, right? If they're saying, hey, this is good work, maybe it's worth believing them, especially if they're the expert in the room. I mean, I just sort of rejected that, right? And he sort of compliments still my instinct is to always say, you know, what do you want? It's like, it doesn't feel, I always have to look at it with suspicion. But I'm trying to move past that. I think that's something I would definitely change. I would try to be a little more, I guess, involved and outspoken. I've always been really quiet about how, you know, what I feel or what upsets me or what I want to do. I often just go with the flow, and maybe take a little more charge over what it is that I want. I can think about, like, you know, going to office hours, but like having a question and not asking that question. Like, why didn't I take that opportunity in that moment? Mm-hmm. But like, that's just like an example of just like my general personality. Like, why am I not taking advantage of this of this opportunity that's right in front of me right now, or this service that's available to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's very good, and you're helping me in the process. um, Rolando, it's my hope that when we finish with this video, that we have opportunity for some kids very young to see it, some middle-aged kids to see it, some 18-year-olds to see it, some college students to see it, etc. And someone anticipating going to graduate school to see it, except as someone wondering about themselves. So the question is, I'd like for you to pick either one of those age groups or that category, and tell me what you would tell such a person in terms of their future, and they're taking on mathematics for their future. So what would you tell a youth who's thinking about pursuing a mathematical career?
All right, so I'm gonna actually throw you back into the mix for a second, because one of the panels that I still remember that you were part of at a Field of Dreams conference was mathematical careers. And what you did was just read off a list of opportunities that one has when you have a degree in mathematics, especially when you have an advanced degree. And it was just this huge long list. Now, I wish I knew how to go from like, I know some analysis to, maybe some job within the NSA. How do you go from point A to point B? That we definitely want. That's definitely been something I've been thinking about. But knowing that there are options, I mean, it's transformative, right? I limited myself to a math major, I think, because out of all of the majors that I could have chosen, this is the only one that I felt like I understood well. Like, I did okay in math in high school, so it makes sense to be a math major. That's how I made that decision. I know that people who do math are math teachers, so I sort of limited my mindset. I guess it's not my fault, right? But my experience shapes my decision making, and I just sort of really just thought that this is all you can really do. And then when people were trying to tell me that there were other opportunities out there, it's slowly I was fighting it. So I guess what I would tell people is, try to reconsider just how powerful your degree can really be. It's not, you're not limited to just one kind of job. Yeah, that was a little rambly, but I think that's all. That's what I would say.
Oh. No, you're dead on. Matter of fact, I'd love you to talk to some of my children as well, and you remind me of some of the conversations that I had with them as well. You're going to be a great teacher, and whatever school has you is going to be blessed for having you. What are a few things that you're looking forward to in the classroom?
In the classroom, I think one thing that I've definitely been trying a little bit more is showing my research to people showing my research to people that my colleagues would think aren't ready to hear what it is. There's this mentality that students don't understand enough mathematics to know what my research is. They need to know more. And so I think that my job is to somehow take a moment and let's say even a class like calculus and somehow make a connection from what it is that they are doing right now to what it is that I am doing and that interests me. You know, how is mathematics still like an active, living, breathing object and not this sort of like this stagnant idea that they're all really trying to, I mean, that's the way we typically teach a lot of these calculus courses, right? This is what it is. This is what it's always been. And so I do try to put a little bit more about of myself and my research into courses. I've done that. There's like, I've tried this sometimes unsuccessfully. Sometimes it's really boring for the students and I apologize to them, but yeah, I've always found it sort of unacceptable that a researcher in, let's say, chemistry or biology could talk about what it is that they do in the lab with their students. Why can't I do that? I mean, I'm hired to do essentially the same job, just in another field. So yeah, it's sort of looking forward to just like refining that idea. Just telling more people what it is that I do. Students like it. They like it when we talk about what it is that we do and why we do it.
That is true. It's and we excite them, and I can tell you're going to excite lots and lots of people along the way to your career. You've received a lot of accolades, and you received several degrees, and so you've been called a mathematician, and then you've advanced mathematicians, etc. And so all the way to where you have your PhD and now you're a professional mathematician, if you will. But somewhere along the way, just, can you maybe reflect back and tell us some times that something happened and that made you feel as if you're a mathematician now? Feel as if you have conquered something. Feel as if you have arrived. Do you have any of those moments that you could share?
Yeah, I mean, there's that moment where I wrote my own paper, and where it wasn't like, yeah, I had a lot of guidance from my advisor at the time, but I was the one doing the writing, right? I was taking charge of an actual document that was put out into the public. There was another moment where I was asked to be a plenary speaker at a conference in my research area. And that was like, I mean, that's kind of, I thought that was kind of amazing. I always thought the plenary speakers were the people that were somehow like the hotshots in the field. And then I'm like, okay, but they invited me. So I took a second to like align those two ideas. You know, I always viewed them as them and the other. Now I'm part of that group. It's also kind of nice to just have like right now I have the UCLA name, right? I flaunt that whenever I can. It's just kind of, I know it's a little elitist, I know, but it's, you know, I have it for a limited time. I'm gonna use it while I can.
Yeah, by all means, well earned, for sure. That'll.
Yeah, I feel like a mathematician. I feel like I'm a UCLA mathematician. You know,
I love
it. When I got the offer from UCLA, my advisor was honestly shocked. He felt that I wasn't ready, that I wouldn't work out, and then I got it. Then he sat me down and told me what my experience would be like. You know, it's like, all right, you're out in the big world. Get ready. So it's yeah, that was another moment of like just growing up mathematically.
Well, I have no doubt that you'll do well, and if I were a big man, I'd put all my wages on you. That's the extent of which I feel for sure. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Let me maybe change course, and then we'll get back to mathematics a little bit. So this is the strangest of all the questions that I have to ask you, and just want to reflect about the current social status, the national debate that we are having now, with the death of George Floyd, and then the police brutality, and as a major player of conversation today. And so the question is, and I'll just throw this word up in here. So give me a mathematical formulation that models this situation, or give me a way that your mathematics help you to speak to the situations likening to this. And so a few comments, but somehow sprinkle some mathematics in those comments any way that you can.
Okay. I'm just gonna say whatever it is and whatever comes out, it's just gonna come out.
That's exactly what this is all about.
Very charged topic. Maybe we'll just deal with this. We'll edit out, we'll cut out whatever we don't want people to hear. But
and you will have the option to do just that.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't let this moment pass us by.
So I guess I'll start off with the mathematics. It's brought to my attention some of the ways that mathematics has been used to hurt people. There is this notion that mathematics as a subject is just inherently neutral. And I guess I can agree with that, right? No tool is just essentially evil. It is what you do with the tool. Like, I can understand that. But when there's a complete disregard for the effect that something can happen, well, then we got to rethink our approach here. In my department, one of the most famous mathematicians works very closely with the Los Angeles Police Department, and they work on these projects that try to sort of automate or make decisions, put it into a program to determine where police need to be patrolling. And the way they build this sort of system is that they feed it the information that we already have. What are the current practices? You train it with that data, and now suddenly you absolve yourself of all this responsibility, and you say, well, it's now fair, balanced, and neutral because it is the mathematics that has taken over. But we never sort of questioned our underlying assumptions. I guess mathematically, you're supposed to always question whether these sorts of axioms that you've set up are the right ones. Do they need to change? Do you need to change the definition? Sometimes starting at that sort of ground level and saying, is this right? And just because we've been doing it this way for a long time doesn't mean it has to be this way. But realistically, I think that's all the mathematics I can put into this situation because this is a real human situation. I've personally gotten into an argument with our department chair this week over their response to not just the current situation, but the way that they are using the current situation to attack our students. And I was outraged at what they did. I use this moment to bring up how the department looks on paper. The department chair in our conversation really just told me that, yeah, you're right. We haven't seen a lot of Black students in our halls. He's like, I've been in this department for years and I think I remember seeing one. We have, 250 graduate students at any given time, potentially. I've lost count, a huge number. So the shocking thing is that he, the department chair, said, what am I supposed to do? I can't do anything. The man who is in charge right now is telling me that they can't make a difference. I don't know how to reason this mathematically. I can't reason with it mathematically. It's just impossible. Yeah, there are plenty of people who are going to always hide behind mathematics. And I think it's important to sort of sometimes just put the math aside and start talking about people.
I'm just loving your response. It's just profoundly deep in this as you bring it forward. I certainly thank you for that. Tell me a little bit about the community that you grew up in.
Okay. I'm from this area in Southeast Los Angeles. It's a small city called Cudahy. You wouldn't be able to type it in properly if you tried. It is definitely so small that people don't even realize that they've driven through it when they're in that part of town. I mean, I can go through some of like the demographics, right? But realistically, I didn't realize that the world was not all Mexican Catholics until I was like 5 or 6. It just didn't make sense to me that there were other people.
Okay.
So a couple years ago, maybe a decade now, a lot of the city councilmen were arrested. And when the FBI report came out over sort of like the corruption, they also included a lot of information about my city. And this is sort of how I learned what this place is. And it's a city where at the time, only 70% of adults had at least a high school education. I mean, I don't know what I thought that number was supposed to be, but 17% it wasn't supposed to be that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom put in like a lot of work to make sure that we didn't go to our local public schools. She was born in Mexico, but she's lived in the United States and Los Angeles almost her entire life. So she knew how the school systems work. Was able to use that sort of for our benefit. You know, it was the kind of school system where if they thought you knew Spanish more than English, they would put you in ESL or English as a second language learning courses, which were subpar. It's a mistake. It was almost something that affected my sister, because she, you know, you ask her a question in Spanish, she's going to answer in Spanish. That was their test.
Mm-hmm.
Their test of whether or not someone knows enough English to learn in school, which is a whole other issue, was to not ask them anything in English.
Mm-hmm.
My mom put us through the magnet program so we could sort of be as far away from some of the local issues, local politics. Yeah. Let me. Yeah.
You grew up in that community, and now you're in a totally different community, working with some of the finest minds in the world, and somehow this area of mathematics has made this possible. How do you plan to use this area of mathematics to somehow bridge these two forces together that seem to have a gap. Community that you grew up in and the community that you somehow work in. How are you going to use your mathematics to somehow bridge any gaps between those communities?
I mean, that's a great question, and that's one that I'm still wrestling with. I initially thought the way I was going to bridge the gap between like mathematics and my community was to become a high school math teacher. Every year since sixth grade, I saw one movie, and it was Stand and Deliver. Like to show that every year for 6 years is just kind of a weird thing to be doing, but. That to me is that sort of formed my picture of what it means to be a good person while also being a mathematician. And still somehow that shapes me in how I think about how I might want to approach bridging these two things. To be honest though, I feel like really removed from my community. Los Angeles is a big city. And if you've never been here, it's just kind of hard to imagine just like how big and how hard it is to get from one place to the other. My job is, just a couple miles away, a 20-minute bike ride. It is a 40-minute ride by car, my own car.
Okay.
There is so much traffic that it makes it impossible to move from one place to the other, and just something that's just a couple miles away feels like an entirely different part of the country. So I definitely don't revisit the area where I grew up as often as I probably should, because it just feels like it's so close. It's only 15 miles away, but it's an hour and a half of a commute each way. So yeah, I really want to somehow get back involved with my community, but I sometimes felt like I wasn't a part of it for a number of reasons. One, like I was like one of the shortest people in the group, and I was always picked on. I was the kid with the thickest glasses. I was the small, scrawny guy with the big backpack who could easily get picked on, and it just. I mean, that's just who I was, right? I probably don't speak Spanish as well as I could. And growing up, that felt like I was, so one of my friends called me, they constantly call me whitewash because I don't know enough Spanish. A lot of the good friends that I have from or that I had growing up, they've gone on, they've got their degrees. Sometimes I wonder how well I would fit in with them because of how different our life, we've diverged so much in our lives. Yeah, sometimes those answers kind of scare me.
Oh, yeah, well, you reflected, well enough to tell us that some thought is going off into it. And some additional thought will go off into it as well. We've covered a number of subjects, but are there any? Is there anything that we missed out? Is there something question that I didn't ask that somehow tells me about Rolando, who he is, and how he got to be where he is today, and his great achievements? Is there any other thing that you'd like to add?
I think you might give me a moment on that.
Surely, in no hurry. Take your time. Yeah. We realized that you didn't know these questions ahead of time, and that they're sort of being thrust upon you.
It's good. At least that it keeps the answers honest instead of being like.
I think so. I think so.
What is something that we might have missed? I feel like I've definitely missed people in this conversation. There are people who I did not talk about. I talked a lot about Robin Wilson because he was definitely the one who got the process started, but he's also the one who connected me to my mentor, John Rock. And John Rock, if you know anything about the Alliance, he seems to, well, people seem to know him.
Yes, I know John well.
Yeah, Phil Kutzko was definitely a great, mentor. But then I also had people like Roberto Soto and his wife Melissa, who were both, students at the University of Iowa when I was there too. And they definitely helped make that transition better. They're both from LA, and they made me believe that, yeah, this is not that crazy of an idea to live in Iowa. I had some friends that I met at the Perspective Weekend that we're still friends to this day. I've been in their weddings. I've been to their weddings. It's just so crazy how close I've been with some of these people. I mean, the support from my family. It's been amazing. They've understood, even though they don't quite know what it is that I do. They sort of understand that I'm trying to have my own life and I'm doing well with whatever this is, even if I can't quite find the words to explain what it is that I do sometimes. There was when I first got to grad school, I did not call my mom for 6 months. And then by the time that happened, I was like, oh, it has been that long. It was just yeah, it hurt, but like I said, they understood. Now that I'm going back to the Midwest again, they're still understanding. They sort of understand that, with my line of work, there are only so many places that I can go. And if a place in California is not making me an offer, I got to still find a job. Got to take the opportunities that are there. I really value that sort of, I'm just saying the word again, understanding. I'm not a thesaurus. It is what it is.
Well, I tell you what, I really appreciate your honesty for sharing with us. You didn't have to do this, nor did you have to do it to the extent to which you did. I've been knowing you for a little while, and I really, really look forward to following your career. Oh, and by the way, I have been stuck in that LA traffic a time or two. And was awfully glad to get out. Yes. So again, thank you for agreeing to do this. You'll have an opportunity to look at this, both of us will, and comment on it for sure. But there will be a lot of people who are going to benefit from this, hearing and seeing you. And you, just as you mentioned, a lot of people that mentored you, you will do the same, and the payback would be forward. So again, thank you for doing this. And if you have any other thing that you want to add, you can at this point before we close it out.
I think we're all right for now. Thank you for taking your time. I really, yeah. I'm glad you were the one asking me questions. It really just does.
Well, thank you for responding to me and not running me away. Okay, so I look forward to talking to you in the near future. Best wishes with everything.
All right. Take care.
Okay. All right.